And our third speaker this morning is Mr. Michael Do. Michael Do served 9 years in the Republic of Vietnam Army before he was detained for another 10 years in a communist concentration camp. He was admitted to the United States as a political refugee in 1990. Since then, he's been very active in community services. He served as CEO and president of the Vietnamese American community in the United States from 2014 to 2021. He's authored and published 20 books in Vietnamese and English, tells stories of his own experiences in the Vietnam War, as well as articles on American social and political issues. During his service in the Irving, the Army of the Republic of Vietnam, he was awarded 13 medals, including 6 gallantry crosses, 1 with palm device. He's earned a BA in political science, a BS in electrical engineering, and a master's degree in engineering management. In July of 2022, Michael was honored and awarded the Resolution of Recognition by the state of Texas Congress for his outstanding contributions to community services. And Mr. Do will discuss Vietnam War, misunderstandings from the American perspective. So please join me in welcoming Michael Do.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Next year, 2025, I may not be here, okay? But next year mark the bitter end of the Vietnam War. But for 50 years, almost 50 years, the South Vietnamese Army suffered a lot of misunderstanding from the American public and even from the American veteran, Vietnam veteran. The existence and sacrifice of our soldiers during the war was ignored. We have suffered offense for decades, mostly due to misinformation or misunderstanding. Most Americans think the Vietnam War was between America and Vietnam, represented by Ho Chi Minh. But, they almost ignore the role of South Vietnamese Army, the government, and the people of South Vietnam. But when things went bad, it's not uncommon for people to point the finger to someone to blame of their failures. In Hollywood, or documentary movie, or books, they always blame the South Vietnamese for the fall of Saigon. For instance, in the Vietnam War movie by Ken Burns and Rick Novick, if they sometimes mention the Vietnamese soldier, always the bad image, always the people cowardly, walk left, run from the battle. And even in the movie Full Metal Jacket, they portrayed a South Vietnamese officer as a pimp who carries girl, whore to American GI. Of course, I admit that in any army there are heroes and cowards, not only in Vietnamese. Okay. But we cannot keep quiet before the unfair and unjust perception that we consider very defamatory toward those who bravely fought during 21 years in Vietnam. First of all, we need to confirm the nature of the war. It's not between America and Hanoi. It's between South Vietnam under democratic government and the communist Vietnam from Hanoi. The Viet Cong was only the subordinate created by Hanoi to invade Vietnam. South Vietnam. And the Americans came to Vietnam as a friend, ally, okay, playing the role of advisory and assistance. They are not our boss. They are not the main role in the war. We, Arvin, fought Vietnam since 1949 against the communists, since the nation of Vietnam existed. And then we continue to fight the Viet Cong when the Republic of Vietnam was established. And Americans come there only after 1954, 55, and they sent troops after in maybe 1965, right? So at the beginning of the war, President Jim disagreed with American about the military strategy to fight against the guerrilla warfare. The Americans want the South Vietnamese army to fight a conventional war. That is not work. That's not work. Okay. President Diem learned how to fight the guerrilla warfare by learning from Malaysia, from Indonesia, from the Britain. That's why he created the so-called strategy Hamlet, which isolate the Viet Cong from the peasant. The Viet Cong, like the fish, have no water to survive. But after the fall of the First Republic, that plan, that project dismissed, and the Viet Cong have more time, have more opportunity to infiltrate the population. You remember the chief of the military, American military resistance, General John O'Donnell. He challenged President Diem. He said, he who pay, give order. That means, Americans want to take care of everything, give order to the Vietnam in the fighting. But President Diem objected that plan, and he sent the plan, initially they want to send the American combat to Vietnam, but President Diem objected. And that's the reason why President Diem was murdered. He's the patriot. He's the man who devoted his life for our country, for our people. And he was murdered brutally by his friends. From 1955 to 1963, South Vietnam achieved some economic, social, and democratic development. But to the American perspective, it's not enough. They want South Vietnam to be advanced as some, like a mostly highly developed country. It's not that way, because we just from the French colonialism after 80 years, and our society just transformed from the kingdom of Vietnam into the First Republic newborn. We cannot just create a democracy like in United States, and that make American government disappointed. They want to rush Vietnam, but it not work. So that's why they murder our beloved president. And from 1963 to 1965, South Vietnam fell into dangerous chaos and long-lasting political instability that gave the enemy the good opportunity to expand in the countryside and infiltrate and establish themselves in the urban area also. So that's why the Americans sent 500,000 troops to Vietnam in 1965. And you remember in April 1965, when responding to Senator Wetmore's Defense Secretary McNamara said to the press, "I don't object to it be called McNamara War. I think that it's a very important war, and I am pleased to be identified with it and do whatever I can with it." And then after 7 years, with 500,000 troops supported by the mightiest and naval force of the world, the Americans realized that they could not win the persistent bloody war in Vietnam. And there was no light at the end of the tunnel. President Richard Nixon then implemented the so-called Vietnamization to transfer the whole burden onto the South Vietnam Army. And in preparing for the total withdrawal, and Nixon both convinced and threatened our President Nguyen Van Thieu to sit at the peace talk with the enemy He then declared the achievement of the peace in honor. Of course, we all know that the United States, after World War II, was the mightiest country in the world. United States can defeat the Viet Cong in a brief war very easy. But they did. They missed a lot of opportunity to win the war. At times when our enemy was on brink of collapse, the U.S. certainly paused and gave them time to heal the world and reinforce. During 21 years of her involvement in Vietnam, the U.S. did not have a consistent policy and a solid military strategy. The policy depends on the public pressure with the promises of the politicians in Washington, D.C. every 4 years for election. In addition, the brutal death of American soldiers that time appeared on the television in every American family, every night, every day. That cause terrorized the people and urged them to join the movement to call for any solution to end the war. From 1972 to 1975, the armed forces had to spread very thin and operate in the territories formerly covered by the force triple, more powerful triple. For instance, my Arvin 5th Infantry that covered 3 provinces, Bình Dương, Bình Long, and Phước Long, that were formerly supported by the 1st American, the big red one. The 5th Infantry, Arvin, the part of U.S. 25th Infantry, and the 11th Armory Cavalry. We should remember that the Arvin was already inferior to the enemy in terms of weaponry. We were supplied with obsolete weapons left from World War II. Our Garand M1, do you remember that one? Can it compete with AK-47? No way. Until 68, we began to receive M16. Before 68, we used Garand M1 and Corbin M1. And the Viet Cong already had AK-47, very powerful. And our 155 millimeter howitzer cannot compare with 130 millimeter from supplied by Soviet Union. Their range is twice an hour. And like, for instance, M41 tank could not defeat T-54. And when they invaded South Vietnam after 72, they sent, hundreds of T-54. And that time we still have M41. Until after 72, we were, supplied some M48. So, for, in Navy or Air Force, our weapons always, up compared to the enemy. So after 1972, U.S. military resistance was cut down from billions to hundreds of millions per year. By the end of 1974, almost armed forces did not have enough ammunition to fight. Thousands of aircraft did not have gasoline, same as tens of thousands of other vehicles. When North Vietnam sent forces, scores of divisions into South Vietnam and launched attacks all over the country, President Nixon did not keep his promise. And the American Congress kept quiet to see South Vietnam falling into the communist hands. And now, some Americans, I'm sorry, not all of you, but some Americans on social media blame the failure on our Arvin. They were very arrogant, infected with racism and superiority complex when they look down on us as, quote, little bastard, gooks, hard to teach. We would like you guys to research, to realize that there were soldiers of the Arvin, 37th Ranger Battalion, fought alongside of Marine infantry. The Arvin Marine and Infantry fought alongside the USMC infantry and retaking Hue own capital. It was the Vietnamese infantry who raised the flag on the pole of the old citadel in Hue. It was the 2nd Battalion of the 3rd Regiment of the Arvin 1st Infantry who put their feet onto the hill, 937 hill, that we call Hamburger Hill. While the soldiers of 101st Airborne, American Airborne, were pinned down due to the heavy attack of the enemy. This quote from the report of Colonel Wilson Harper, Chief of Command and Control Division of the U.S. Military Resistance Command, Vietnam, 22nd May 1969. Quote, on May 19, 1969, the Arvin conducted a combat assault on landing zone YC-3249-76 and began moving to position on the southeast side of Hill 937. In preparation for 4th Battalion attack on 20th May 1969, 3 battalions from the 3rd Airborne Brigade, 101st Division, progressed to a multi-battalion attack which began at 10:30 hours. The advance of the Vietnamese battalion was extremely rapid due to the use of the high-speed trail and light enemy resistance. They were the first to reach the top of Hill 937 and assaulted position vicinity YC-3299-80. The American battalion were meeting heavy resistance on their axis of attack. The Vietnamese Arvin went to assist by moving north along Hill 937 and relieving the pressure. However, friendly fire from the Americans prevented the Vietnamese from moving close. The Vietnamese then moved on to reverse slope of southeast of the hill. End quote. This information was later on reconfirmed by the Abrams tape, 1968-1972. Quote, so the fact are that the first people to the crash was the Arvin. End quote. So many other brilliant Vietnamese victories of the Arvin were never mentioned in any American document or movie. For instance, the great victory of the NB offensive in 1968. We killed more than 50,000 enemies, captured 6,000 more, and we totally destroyed the whole enemy infrastructure in Vietnam, in South Vietnam. The second, the siege of An Loc, where we encountered the enemy was outnumbered 6-1. We held the city for 2 months amid hundreds of waves of enemy attack by infantry of T-54. We received about 80,000 rounds of various kinds of cannon, rocket, mortar, average between 1,500 and 2,000 per day. Here you can see in the picture, our Arvin very calm, awaiting for P-54 to approach to kill them. They were very calm. You see? They didn't run away from the battle. They stayed there. And the thing Dr. Wu just presented about the 92nd Arvin Ranger Battalion as all legend. I don't want to repeat it. And the thing, one more thing. You remember Lieutenant Colonel Hamilton, who was rescued from the DMZ zone? A Vietnamese Navy SEAL, Nguyen Văn Kiệt, Corporal, was one of the two teams who rescued Lieutenant Colonel Hamilton in the area infected by enemy, amid the enemy zone, DMZ. But later he got Navy Cross, he awarded with Navy Cross. But in the movie, I remember Bat 21 Rescue, whatever, okay, featuring the rescue, there were not a word about him. And even Colonel Hamilton did not mention his savior. The American soldier came to Vietnam for 1 year on each tour. So maybe 4 or 5 years. Thank you very much for your service. But only 10% see the battle. 90% support. And so, you know, like the Vietnamese army, we have at the Arvin, at the peak, 500,000. There are about 50,000, you know, fought on the battlefield. Okay. So that's why, you know, with the enemy, you know, fresh troops sent from North Vietnam every month. And South Vietnamese, you know, were overwhelmed. Yeah, I'm almost done. So the South Vietnamese joined the army when they reached the age of 18. They could never expect to leave the army until they get wounded or killed in action. They fought the war, not 1 year, 2 years, but many years, many more years, maybe 10 or 20 years. The family, they endured this situation. The family lived in poverty. But remember, the courage and endurance must exceed the limit that normal people could stand. So we do not mean to offend our friend or our allied forces. We just want to tell the truth and want to take back the dignity of our comrades in arms, particularly of 250,000 Arvin soldiers killed in action during the war. So Jesus Christ, when asked about the punishment for a woman who committed adultery, said to the mob, "Let him who is without sin among you be the first to cast the stone at her." So we want to send a strong message to those who have insulted, who defamed our Arvin. I want to say, if you did not have a day in the combat, in the battlefield, please stop. Stop. You do not have right to slander our Arvin. That concludes my presentation. Thank you. Do I have 1 minute?
I'm sorry?
Just 1 minute? One more? 1 minute?
1 more minute?
Yeah, one more. Please.
Okay, 1 more minute.
1 more minute.
I'm gonna start the timer, Michael.
Okay. Okay. I brought here three titles, and I have put on the table now there. If you are interested, I will be there to sign the book. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Do you yield the remainder of your time? All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.